Hello, everybody. I know I haven't really done a video uh, on Marvel stuff for a few weeks. I started working like an actual job. Uh, I work like a 9 to 5, so I don't really have like the energy to do like in-depth breakdowns anymore. Um, so this is basically gonna be my final thoughts for the Loki series and how I feel it might affect the MCU in the future. And I know we have What If coming out Wednesday. So if I do videos for the What If episodes, there'll probably be more like this style because I don't have like the time to go through and get like screenshots and break down everything that happens. I'll just have to give like my off the cuff kind of interpretation of what happened. And without further ado, let's kind of get into this right now. I I for one, I loved every single episode of the Loki series. I thought they did an amazing job of introducing one of the really one of the vaguest entities in the Marvel comic book universe, and they did a pretty good job of explaining how it works. Uh, there's only like a few stories, the TVA, I believe. One of them I remember reading myself. She-Hulk gets arrested by the TVA for she wanted to warn Clint Barton that he was going to die, and it really doesn't matter in the big grand scheme of things because like he gets revived later on anyway. But it was a very cool story where basically she was on trial and she was representing herself because she's a lawyer, of course, and uh, they were able to call witnesses from like any point in the timeline, which was pretty cool to see. And I'd like to see maybe something like that in the future, maybe in like a season 2 of Loki, or they could have the TVA involved in another series as well. Uh, and I'm really glad that they chose Loki to be the center of this like TVA story in the MCU because like having a high fantasy character like Loki trying to cope and figure out how to operate within well not only like this high sci-fi you know realm that they're in but just like a a bureaucratic like group like the TVA. It just really made the show really interesting, and it just really wouldn't have been the same had it been like Tony Stark arrested by the TVA. Probably still enjoyable. Robert Downey Jr. is really good, but it just wouldn't have been as interesting if it hadn't been for Loki. They could have done with like other characters. Thor would have been an interesting choice if they had done that way. Um, Another thing, I thought they did a pretty good job of showing how, ultimately a fascistic entity like the TVA, who controls and polices people's decisions all across time and space, and they do it under the pretense of like, oh well, it's already happened, like we know it how what's supposed to happen, so obviously you did something wrong, and ruling like that's ultimately a bad decision. And time doesn't want to work like that. Time doesn't want to be controlled. Time wants to do whatever it wants to do, and it wants all the multiverse. It wants all the timelines. That's how the comics are. Uh, yeah, and one idea that they kind of play with is that like only the people in the TVA are truly free because they're the ones like going around policing everybody. But no, they're all kidnapped. Therefore, they are also victims. And I really I really liked them adding this in because like let's say like in real life, um, there's oftentimes people will end up siding with their own oppressors and like not even realize it. But in this scenario, the oppressors being like the TVA and ultimately, well, the Timekeepers, which is ultimately now we know Kang the Conqueror. Um, they also didn't really spare anything with dealing with the multiverse. They gave us loads of new Loki variants. We had like, of course, Sylvie, the old Loki, the kid Loki, the boastful Loki, the crocodile Loki, uh, or alligator Loki, actually. And we saw Throg. There was President Loki. Um, and I'm sure there might have been a lot more that we didn't even realize. I'm sure people will be scouring Loki for Easter eggs and stuff for a little while now, because some of those episodes there was just loads of Easter eggs scattered. We saw, the Thanos copter. Uh, we saw a giant yellow jacket, and I can't even think right now. Anyway, onto the topic of love. Loki and Sylvie's relationship, while strange, is perfectly in line with the idea of a narcissistic egomaniac who can only ever truly love himself, or in this case, another version of himself. And I thought that was a pretty fun and neat thing that they did. We don't know if that love is like, we don't know what kind of form that love is taking place, but it seems just mostly like a good friendship, even though I'm sure there's going to be some words said next time they meet. Now, the introduction of Kang in this show as He Who Remains, or as Immortus, whatever you want to call him, because he did appear to be the Immortus character from the comics based on his character design. And it was one of the biggest surprises that we all knew was coming. All the symbolism that we saw, all of it pointed to Kang throughout the show. But would they really introduce such a big character like that in a Disney Plus series? Yeah, they did. And it was pretty great. Like, I really enjoyed it. And obviously, Jonathan Majors did a phenomenal job as Kang. And I think the implications this series has for the future of the MCU is pretty big. Like, we're already seeing all the hype with Spider-Man No Way Home, like all the multiverse stuff that's going to be happening with that. But even past that, like I don't even know where to begin with Multiverse of Madness, because like we don't really know much about that. But a few like comic book stories that come to mind are one, Kang War. That was a pretty fun one. It's a newer one. We obviously have Secret Wars, and one of my favorites, Battle World. And I think a lot of people thought of like Battle World whenever they saw that like the trash planet, like the where the Citadel at the end of time was. But I don't. Battle World would be like a far off thing, and Secret Wars will probably be a little bit further down the line. Since they're focusing on Kang a lot, it's probably gonna end up being a Kang War type thing. But Marvel always like mixes stories together to create new ones, so they might take like aspects of like Secret Wars and inject it into Kang Wars, and vice versa. So yeah, I think they'll probably do Kang War before the other two. And like I said, I can't really do in-depth reviews of episodes anymore. If you want something like that, there's plenty of other good channels like that. Like ones I watch are Everything Always. He's really good. And also Emergency Awesome. They kind of have similar names. But they're both very good at covering Marvel stuff. So yeah, check them out if you want like really good Marvel intel. But anyway, I am, for one, looking forward to the What If series coming out tomorrow night or Wednesday, whichever one. I'll probably have to wait till Wednesday to watch it. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video. And thank you for watching. If you're watching this on Twitch, please hit the follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and have a stellar night.